I was not one of those kids. Oh, okay. So I used to play armies and stuff when I was a little kid. Like we all probably did. But I wasn't one of those kids at school who's like, oh, I'm going to go and join the army. I used to actually sort of laugh at them because I was a bit of a rebel when I grew up. I actually got bullied in year 6. And up to that point, I was quite a sensitive, soft sort of kid. When I got bullied that year, after that year, I decided to become a bit of a hard ass. And, we'd get into fights and all those sort of things. And so high school for me was just a lot of that, a lot of fun, a lot of sports, things like that. And there's a military history in my family. So my dad was in national service. He almost went to Vietnam, but he just loved it. He was like a historian. So he'd always talk about it, always be watching war stuff. And both my grandparents were in the Second World War, and then the ones before them, the great grandparents, that level of that generation was in World War One too. So there's quite a bit of history there, but I always resisted it, and I left school before finishing because I was just over it, and did like a apprenticeship in like building construction. Was going down that sort of road, carpentry and landscaping and all sorts of labouring. And then, I was just lost. I was just a bit lost. I was just like directionless. I knew I had the potential to do things. And my dad, I remember, would tell me, "Why don't you join the army?" And I was like, "Nah, that's for not losers." But you'd see all those ads on TV and be like, "I'm not like that." Little did I know that no one's actually like that in the military. Not the people that they have on the ads. And I remember it was just literally one day. All the best things that have ever happened in my life have just literally woken up or I've had this inner feeling of just like, that's what I need to do. It goes back to like change of careers, like having a child, moving to Melbourne. That was just a knowing I needed to do. Same with this. It was just like, okay, one day I just remember I was like, I'm joining the army. That's what I'm going to do. I told my dad, he was like, oh yeah, that's great. My mum was like, oh shit, that's not good. And everyone else was like, what are you doing? Like you're 18, you can do whatever, like that's going to be shit, Again, yeah. And I was like, I don't know, I'm going to do it. And it was a feeling, but I was like, okay. I wanted that sense of adventure, sense of purpose, and to be tested physically, mentally, emotionally. Not sure if I actually knew that. I knew it was going to be hard. I had a few guys that had already started to join, and they were in infantry, which is where I wanted to go. I was going to do trades first, and then I was like, no, I may as well just do the hard job, the one that's the hardest. It's the fighting job. It's the infantry, and so yeah, did that. Almost didn't get in because I stupidly put down that I had asthma as a child, but I didn't actually. So I had to. I thought I did. I thought I did. Like I was told, and if it's one of those medical questions, if you ask one of those questions, they're like, yeah, you can't do it. And I was like, what do you mean? So I had to do this special test, and then they were like, yeah, you're fine, go in. And I was slated to go in December 2001. So if you remember what happened 2 months previous to that, September 11th.
Oh, it was too.
Well, I was already in. I was just like basically waiting to go to Kapuka, which is the basic training. And yeah, when September 11 happened, it was like, whoa, shit, this is all happening. And you sort of knew, okay, we're probably going to go to war. Are we going to go there? Or who knows where we're going to go? But yeah, go in, do the basic training. Basic training, it's pretty easy. It's just a shock to the system because they're trying to turn you from a civilian into a soldier. And I struggled with that, not physically or any of the technical stuff. I was actually really good at that, even weapons handling, things like that. And fitness is always good at that. But attitude, I suppose I was a bit of a smart ass. And they tried to turn that against me and it pissed some of the sergeants and stuff off. And that's the background I'd come from. I was a bit of a lad in my teenage years, so I was trying to get that out of me. But then once you do basic training, then you go to your core training. So everyone goes, they might be a mechanic, they might be a driver, they might be radios. infantry, you'd go to Singleton, and that's where the real training starts, because then it's all men, all blokes, no women allowed, because, for obvious reasons, not that they can't do aspects of that job, it's just when we put a pack on their back, it's just like they can't seem to be able to carry it. But later on, women did get into it, and they were really good fitness-wise and at a lot of the stuff, but it was just when the pack
More the heavy
goes on.
lifting stuff.
Yeah, it's just that long-term carrying really heavy weights, it just tends to break down. But some of them were like even fitter than the dudes. But that didn't happen for a long time. Even that didn't happen until after I left. But so at that point, it was just all blokes. And yeah, so it's like a man's world. And that training was awesome. Loved it. And we got, in basic training, you can't leave. You get there. I think we had 1 or 2 times where we went out to town for like an hour or two. But in Singleton, it's really hard training through the week. But then you can go out town. We go to Newcastle, have fun. It was awesome. Really young, like 19 years old. Once you do that, then you get, if you pass, I think our course we started with 48. We started with 48 and 16 finished, I think. So it's not
That's
easy.
a lot.
It's not easy. It's not like SF training or anything like that, but it's full on. And then from there you get orders to your battalion, which is basically going to be your home. So at the time there was the 2nd Battalion, 1st Battalion, which are based up in Townsville, and they're like the readiness sort of battalions. So that means they're ready to go. They're sort of considered the premier fighting battalions, plus there was the 3rd Battalion, which was in Sydney. And I was like, okay, go try and live somewhere else for a while, like Townsville. I'd been a Sydney boy my whole life, so I was like, or the Sydney area. And so I thought, okay, go to Townsville. All I knew about Townsville was that it was hot. I remember a bunch of us were all like flying up to Townsville. No one lived there. And we're like, okay, so we're going to get off the plane and we're going to start our 4 years of sweating. It's like, because it's just so hot. Yeah, and that's what it was. It was awesome. Got to the 2nd Battalion, and then the 2nd Battalion was, if you imagine this is 2001 or start of 2002, the guys were in Timor, just coming back. That environment was as close to a jail as you could get.
Yeah?
It's all blokes trained to kill. Yeah, and back then there was still like, it was normal if you stuffed up, you'd get knocked.
What do you mean get knocked? Like someone physically hit you?
Oh yeah. So
what do you mean? So it's in a training session, you'd make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then someone will physically come and hit you.
Yeah, or even more common would be out on the piss, and you're a new bloke, and you're meant to have your mouth shut, and you start gobbing off, and it's just like, bop, bop, bop. Or if you fuck up majorly, or you just like what we would call a bag of shit, or a sack of shit. Yeah. So is he a sack? No, he's a good hand. He just didn't want to be a sack. So yeah, we're told like basically you go to the battalion, and for the first 1 to 2 years, shut your mouth, do as you're told, let your actions do the talking, and when you have the respect, the older guys will talk to you. And so I tried to listen to that as much as possible. And it was like...
And because you had that attitude of being a bit of a smart ass, did you struggle with that?
Not at all, no.
No?
I like that. I'm very much... I realised I'm like, yeah, fucking oath. People like... Because I think why I was a smart ass growing up is I knew I could see things. Wasn't conscious that I could see it, but where there was entitlement with people. It's like, why should I respect you? I don't know who you are. What have you done? So that was where I suppose the attitude came from. But when I understood that, yeah, I'm just some young dude. They don't know me, so I've got to prove myself. And I could speak all I want, but unless I show them, then they're not going to respect me. So yeah, I didn't really have any issues once I got to the battalion in terms of with that stuff. And because I shut my mouth and just let my thing do the talking, I suppose I got brought in probably a little bit earlier. Yeah, like within a year or so. But I remember you just go there and they're just like, the way they speak about you, they call you a lid.
A lid?
Yeah. But just get the fucking lids to do it, Yeah, like it's like you're like a nothing. Yeah. And then you just got to go through that period, let your let your actions do the talking, and then you get the respect. And then eventually, over time, you get into leadership positions and go into different roles. But for me, it was like...
Okay. Yeah, that's. I'm just thinking now, with that many men and having that mentality, there would be surely some decent fights between them all.
Oh, yeah.
Is it more, do they have bigger fights when they're out by themselves or more during a training session?
Well, it doesn't really happen on barracks when you're actually training and like
It's
doing an
more
exercise.
after.
Because when you're doing an exercise like shooting or whatever, it's professional. Like, and you're working as a unit too. So even if you don't like... you're sort of put in a section, which is put in a platoon and a company and a battalion. So sometimes you're with guys that you probably wouldn't hang out with normally, but you're a team. And so you work as a team, even if, and that's the great thing. So this is where a lot of those good learnings come from. There's a lot of annoying, stupid shit that we did for no reason, like hurry up and wait. Like people think the army's just exciting. Some roles are more exciting than others, but there's a lot of time waiting around, sort of doing nothing, waiting for the next thing. But yeah, there was a lot of like good lessons around being professional, working as a team, learning how to communicate, as you would have probably seen on when we ran you through that stuff, how we communicated, because there's a process, there's a system. It's like you do things this way every single time, because then that way everyone knows what to do. Those sort of things are really good.
Is the way, so the way you, if you're going to tell someone to do something, the way you actually structure that to help them understand?
Yeah.
What would be an example of that? If you were to inform me about something or tell me, is it more if you're going to tell someone for, I guess, constructive criticism or something like that, is that the more communication you learn?
Well, yeah, I'll bring it back to like a battle scenario. So if we're in contact, there's specific communication that happens all the time. So we might say if we get shot at, so the one enemy, 200 meters.
Okay.
Reference X trees or reference the creek line, 5 meters right, and then everyone then echoes the exact same thing straight away. We all echo it, and that echo just happens constantly. And then it's like, this team go, etc. And then if you run out of ammo, it's like a stoppage, but everyone's like stoppage. So there's just things like that that are mainly done for combat, but they transfer across into daily life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's all I understand. So how does those commands transfer into daily life?
No, not those specific commands, but in reference to a team, knowing exactly what you need to say when something happens, so like a systems or a process, yeah, and then everyone echoing the one command, if that makes sense. So everyone's echoing, so there's like real clear communication. So instead of someone just saying one person saying it, one person says it, and then everyone echoes what the one person says, and they're all echoing back to each other. Yeah.
So in the business, give me a scenario where that would happen.
Well, again, it could just be as simple as like you're running an operation, or you're driving, you're doing anything. So maybe it could be a campaign you have, or you're dealing with leads, you're dealing with customers, and you're the team that's dealing with customers. You've got management, and then you've got sales team or whatever they are, and there's really clear communication between all parties that are dealing with that customer. Does that make sense? So clear emails, clear voice communication, stuff like that. Instead of getting lazy, just sort of.
Because I'm trying to figure out the echo part why you'd repeat it in a business situation between a manager to a team member or whatever it is.
It could be simple as like the way that would transfer to the modern world right now. It could be like have you heard of Loom?
Loom. Is that
It's
program?
It's like a voice recorder. So like you had a meeting with someone, prospect, blah, blah, blah. You could just do a quick little 1 minute soundbite. Met with this person. This is what the problem is. This is how we're going to solve them. This is how we can talk to them. Bang, send that across.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So it's very clear instructions.
Clear soundbite. And so the person who's part of your team they're not going in blind into a situation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're getting, oh, yeah, sweet. This is so-and-so. This is their file. I'm just trying to use multiple scenarios, but it would be, dealing with clients and customers is a good one, because you want to look after the client as opposed to dealing with an enemy, right? I think clear communication, and it wasn't until I started working with ex-military guys again when we were doing these men's retreats that I noticed, that's right. When we work together, it's super clear. Like, it's just quick, it's sharp. The information that needs to be transferred is transferred. There's no fluff.
It's straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
There's no beat around the bush.
Yeah.
You just find out what you need to do and then you do it.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm talking about. So because if it goes back to what we were doing back then, we were fighting the enemy. So everything has to be clear, sharp, no fluff, right? Same with the communication on the radio. It's like short, sharp, because you've got an objective. And then that then transfers out into the world, because as we know, there's a lot of noise or useless noise, right? And that can be in a corporate environment or a business environment. But if you're able to clearly and concisely communicate what you need or what you want, things move a lot faster.
That's one skill that a lot of people struggle with, is communication.
Yeah.
Because I always find that a lot of people tend to beat around the bush when saying something, whether it's fear of conflict, whether it's fear of maybe putting it to them wrong or being misunderstood, but everyone tends to beat around the bush to try to get their point across. And I've always found that I used to do that until I learned that the more transparent I am and the more straightforward, the less misunderstandings there are with my message.
100%.
So, yeah, it's a massive skill to learn.
Yeah. And you can only really do it through practice. You've just got to overcome it. Because it's normal to experience nerves and doubt when you're trying to communicate something. And so, like, I've been a teacher for over 10 years. But if I look back, my ability to do that, like to communicate and to process information fast and stuff like that, started from the military. Because this is where it transfers in. And it's another key lesson is information processing. Because you got a lot of things coming at you. You got to make. That's why the training is physical. Because when you're physically robust, your nervous system is robust. When your nervous system is robust, you can tolerate higher levels of noise coming at you, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Like much higher levels of information without it overwhelming you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why you have to be physically fit, because if you're not physically fit and all this stuff starts happening, you're like, your brain doesn't work. But the more physically fit you are, which means your nervous system is adapted, then you get more access to this part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, and you can make good decisions. Make good decisions under pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the training with militaries. Drill, 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 drill. So it becomes reflexive. Your brainstem has control of it now, so then you can now make better decisions. So, I got deployed overseas a few times. I wasn't fully tested in combat. I wish I was. That was the only regret I have. But that wasn't my fault. It was just the tours I went on. I was in Iraq in 2003, first regular ground troops on the ground in 2003, Baghdad. Had some hairy moments for sure, a few hairy moments. And then, did another few tours. Well, one to East Timor. Again, hairy moments in that, but you can't help if you don't get exposed to those things. If I'd probably stayed in a bit longer and kept going to Afghanistan and things like that, I probably would have, But do I regret that? Slightly, only because, again, you're trained to be at a certain level and you don't fully know how you're going to go until you're fully tested.
Because you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you're fully tested. And I got quite a few mates. And I was on the road to going special forces and all that sort of stuff. I got injured before I went to my barrier test. And then by that time I was a bit disgruntled with the military. So I got out knowing that, I just got out and I thought I'll go out and I'll just test the civilian world out and see how I go. And if it's shit, then I'll get back in and I'll go for SF, Special Forces again. And when I got out, I was quite successful straight away. So I was like, it's freedom. I had freedom again. So there was good things about the military, but after a certain period of time, you're like, okay, I can't do anything. I'm an asset of the government. I have to go where they say. I can't just, don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I can't, I've signed a contract.
Yeah.
Right? And I wanted to remain in honour. I went to honour that contract. I'm not going to just leave, even though I knew, saw many guys just one day gone. So, but there was a lot of adjustment period after that. So initially, great, I'm free again. Now I'm my own boss, making some decent money, and then things just start to crash. And so, like, I got, suppose, sort of PTSD, anxiety, depression, stuff like that. It wasn't from the combat at all. I mean, not at all. I wanted more of that. And any sort of combat soldier or infantry soldier or fighting soldier will tell you they want more of that. That's what you do. That's why you want it. But your nervous system is trained to a heightened level. It's really hard to integrate back to normal society. A lot of guys kind of go to security jobs, things like that, which is still pretty much the same. You still have to have a heightened system.
So does the PTSD come more from going from such an intense environment to now very calm, relaxed, and not really much going on?
Yep.
Is because of the environment change?
Yeah, exactly.
So when they say PTSD, doesn't PTSD come from a traumatic experience that then causes that to then...
It doesn't have to.
Nah?
I mean, look, it's... I wouldn't say I had PTSD. I had a stressed nervous system, right? And then a whole bunch of emotional issues that I hadn't dealt with. But I'd also had multiple concussions from contact sport and stuff like that. And from what I know now about the brain, that actually, it's like a brain injury. And then if you couple that with stress and emotional breakdowns and things like that, it's like a cocktail of the stress, the PTSD causes a brain injury causes a brain injury, and those are common causes of depression. So it's like a physiological cause of depression. It's not necessarily anything. There's a bunch of things that could be ongoing triggers to it, but it's the ongoing thing. And if you think about that job and then lots of drinking, lots of alcohol, I did quite a bit of drugs as well, party drugs.
Yeah, while you were in the military.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly, anyone who knows who we've been in, there's a lot of that goes on, as long as you don't bring it to work, but a lot of guys did it. It's just sort of the party drugs. And then afterwards as well, did a lot of that, a lot of drinking, not much sleep. Not many people sleep that well in their 20s anyway, but coupling that all together with a fair bit of loss of identity, loss of friendships and everything like that, I had a massive, I was pretty bad, pretty depressed. And it was everything combining into it. It's in my late 20s. And that's what led me on to what I'm doing now, because I started to try to go inward and learn about psychology, things like that, meditation. Yeah, and that's sort of what led me on this path. And I realised that the only way I was going to get through this stuff was to go in and take responsibility and move forward from that point. Yeah.
And where did you start? So with all the stuff about obviously having to reach in, did you start through meditation?
I was looking at that stuff. Like my parents were sort of into that stuff, and I would always be like, "Oh, it's weird," I don't want to do that stuff. But then at that time, I started to look at it. I started to read books and explore and things like that, and I'd heard, well, what do? You sit there and you meditate. Try and meditate. I'm just thinking. It's annoying, and that's what that happens to everyone when they start to meditate. It's hard because you notice your thoughts, and people think I'm doing it wrong. No. That's the point. You're meant to notice the thoughts. You can't change thinking. Thinking happens. It's what the brain does. It thinks.
Yeah.
Try and control it. It's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
The whole point of meditation is to, instead of focusing on all these things at once, is to have a single point of focus. But there was one moment in particular, I was feeling this intense sadness, and I think it was just from loss of many things at once. Friends, jobs, partners, like the military career and stuff like that. And I read in a book somewhere, it's like, if you're feeling this, the reason why the negative emotion won't go away is because you're trying to avoid it. So you're trying to work around it, do something else or comfort eat or something like that, or work out really hard or drink it away or whatever it is. You're trying to avoid that, which is actually festering and making it worse and worse and worse and worse. And I read this passage was like, if you want it to resolve, you need to allow it to be fully felt.
Yeah.
Remember you talking about this?
Yeah, I heard a quote just off that said, trauma will go through family until someone's ready to feel it. And it's so true, because a lot of the stuff we actually get isn't necessarily from our experiences either. There's a lot of passed on trauma.
100%. Yeah, there's a bit on that. And the person who actually says, I'm ready to do the work, gets kind of hit with everything.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I go, your shit.
Yeah. So it's rocky, and so it can be rough, and you often feel like the black sheep, right? But yeah, I read this thing. It was like you won't be able to resolve it until you allow it to be fully felt. And that was in the back of my mind, and I just still had this like intense sadness. Like I had suicidal thoughts for years, and I'd even like talk about it. Like I was just in a really dark place, you know. And where do suicidal thoughts come from? It's your ego dying. It's not you. It's a part of you that needs to go. And so you may think of it as you need to end the physical life. It's just you need to end an aspect of you which doesn't serve you. And so it literally feels like you want to die, but it's really your ego not wanting to die.
It's a part of you that, like you said, is ready to leave. It's
Yeah.
time for you to start the next chapter in your life.
Yep, it's this resistance, and it between us is like there's the difference between an amazingly fulfilled life and a really narrow life is our ability to tolerate and move through resistance. And we create our own resistance. And that's what I was resisting my feeling of this intense hurt and sadness. I remember I was like, okay, yeah, I didn't notice that. I'd read that passage, and it was this one day, and I was sitting there, and I was like, okay, I just feel this fucking intense pain. And I was like, all right, fuck it. That's like, I'm going to turn it up to 100% in my mind, right? So I'm like, okay, there it is. 100%. So as I went to 100%, it was, it just literally 5 seconds, I felt it, and then I went, poof. It's like I went through some dimensional thing and pure love. Like, I can speak about it and people go, oh, yeah. But you can't really describe it. It's like a pure bliss consciousness. And I was like, oh, like, it was like, it's like the music was like, oh, playing in the side. And I felt love, like, but inner love. And at that moment, I was like, I lost the fear of death, because I'm like, there's something more here. This is something more. Was it God? Was it what is it? God, bliss, consciousness. Yeah, that's what it was, and it was amazing. And I was like, okay, I can see a road through now, because I'd had that experience for myself, and then gradually go back to normal. Back to normal feeling, and then I'm like craving that experience, which then again causes more suffering.
Because then you're trying to chase.
Now I'm trying to chase that experience. Yeah. And I'm not in that experience, so and that's the next lesson to learn. And so but that's when I was like, okay, I need to go down this path. But I still was like, in my reintegration back into civilian life, which they say takes about 10 years or so. Still sort of messing around. I was actually doing some bar management jobs at that time and having fun and letting things loose, but also starting to go down this spiritual path. And as the deeper I went down it, the people I grew up with and things like that just started to drift away. Probably think I was weird, because I was starting to align more to my true path. And I knew I haven't been already a personal trainer and seeing changes in people through like corrective exercise, movement, stuff like that. I was like, do I do medicine? Do I do it? It's like, no, something holistic, something that combines like mind, body, spirit, and that's what I landed on, kinesiology. And
so is what you do called, like, would you categorize that as kinesiology?
One of the modalities I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So overall, you'd probably call me a holistic health practitioner, right? Because I do a bunch of modalities. But it started out as a personal trainer, and then the first foray into the sort of therapeutic realm was kinesiology, which is, especially back then, was very fringe. It's pretty well known these days, and that's like using biofeedback to tap into an individual's subconscious mind via their nervous system to find patterns of stress, right? As opposed to treating symptoms, we find patterns of stress that are keeping the individual out of balance. And then we bring them back to balance, everything normalizes. When I started to study that, and I was really scared of doing that course because I was like, what are people going to think of me? They're going to think I'm a weirdo doing this, all these little thoughts in my head. And so I held off for like 2 years, and then I got myself fired from a bar management job, because obviously I needed to push in this direction. And as soon as I got fired from that job, I called up the college. Can I study the course? And they're like, yep, we've got a spot next week. Started studying. I was like, oh, this is it. This is where I'm going. And that was like that's probably 12 years ago now.
So with kinesiology, you're basically using the person's body to tell you what the problem is?
Yep. Because, and I'll bring it back to this, is like, most people know that our subconscious mind's computing power is ridiculously more powerful than our conscious mind. I think as a conscious mind is like 40 bits of information per second can process 40 bits of information, and the subconscious mind, I think they say, whoever they is, you know what I mean? Like 11 million bits of information per second. So 40 bits to 11 million bits, subconscious mind. What's a subconscious mind? Subconscious mind and subconscious nervous system. Subconscious mind is this abstract thing. It's like, what's the mind? But within our neurology, within our physical neurology, a lot of the functions are subconscious, aren't they? Like breathing, digestion, elimination, even thought patterns, organisation of our movement, that's all subconscious.
And even memories and stuff like that, and they say they actually store into your DNA. They can actually be stored even into organs.
Yep, definitely do it with organs.
Into organs, because I heard this story and it actually gave me goosebumps, because there was a story of a young girl that got murdered. I might screw up this story, but I'll give you a gist of it. So, young girl got murdered, and she was an organ donor, and she donated her heart to this older guy, and he kept having vivid dreams, like the same dream every single night of being murdered. And he could see the guy, he could see where he was, he could see everything. And he couldn't get out of his head. And every single night he'd have the same dream. So he decided to contact, I think, the doctor to say, listen, this is what's going on. I don't know what to do. And somehow ended up getting back to find out the story of the original donor of his heart, and found out that she was murdered. And through his memory, in his dreams, they'd actually found out who the person was who murdered the girl and where she got murdered, and actually convicted the person of her murder through his memories that obviously have come through her heart. So her organs stored the memory of that.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting? That's crazy. I've never heard of that story.
Yeah, when I heard that, I freaked out, because then you start looking into DNA.
Yeah.
And they say that they've been able to actually upload and download information into a drop of DNA. Yeah. And a drop of DNA can hold like 1 trillion gigabytes of data.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like
insane.
A computer system. Yeah, the memory is actually within the body as opposed to in the brain. The brain acts like a processor to extract the memory, but it's not. There's no way it could be just in the brain. Look at the sides of the brain. It's in the body. It's in the tissues of the body. So in the fascia, but you've heard of fascia, like the connective tissue?
No.
Yeah, like dendrites, and then there's DNA as well. And then even the hard science these days, not even like alternative science, hard science has shown that they can map at least 3 generations back of generational trauma.
Through a person's DNA or through a person's body, they can actually track it back.
Yeah.
Yeah?
There's a book called It Didn't Start With You, and he goes through the science of that. Mark, I can't remember his name. It didn't start with you. So that's like the science is now there with showing that, and that like they've only got 3 generations back. It could be limitless, And with kinesiology, we can tap into things like that as well. But what we do is we're tapping into the 95%. Because if I was to use my 5% to try and understand the individual's 95%, is that like a clever way of working.
No.
I mean, this is what most people do work that way. So there is so much that we don't know, and so much that we know that we don't know, right? And the mind it distorts, it deletes and distorts and generalizes. So generalization, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm going to see when I work with someone what I'm trained to see. What do we do with back pain? We do this. With every single person, we do this one thing. But we know, based on how many people are still in back pain, that that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or all sorts of pain or whatever it is, you know, it depends on what's driving the issue and how many layers are there. And that's what we do with kinesiology. We find the underlying layers. So you can have, it can be a structural thing, can be a, biochemical, can be emotional, can be energetic, can be a combination. It's often a combination. And there's these layers that are underneath, and we use muscle testing as a form of biofeedback to interact with the computer system of the body embedded within the subconscious nervous system to, it's like we're trained to read the code of the body, and it gives us the information of what's going on and what to do about it. That's it. And even back in then, I was sort of like, I just could see it working, but I still didn't understand how the hell is this working? Like, because it works no matter what. Like, I could train you or anyone else to do it, and within an hour or two, you'd be able to do the basics of it, because that's how it works. But they'll tell you it doesn't work. It works.
Well, I think I asked you last time.
Yeah.
Because I heard of a way where you stand straight, you stand up, and you say to your body, "Show me a yes,"
Yep.
and you should lean forward.
Yep.
Show me a no, you should lean back.
Yeah.
And then you start asking your body questions.
Yeah, body
is
does
it
it. Body does
anger that's getting me? Is making me upset? Is
Yeah.
it frustration? Is it nervousness? Is it what you ask it questions, and based off which way you lean, your body will just lean in a certain direction. And it's strange.
Yeah,
because it feels like
that's biofeedback into your subconscious system.
but you feel like you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, well,
That's
you've just
why
got to move out of the way, because you can override it.
Yeah,
you can override things,
Yeah.
for sure, but you've got to be clear and neutral. And this is where, with like something like kinesiology and muscle testing, it gets a bad rap because if you don't, you can influence the test, you can. But if you're clear, it's very accurate. And they have done research on it to say someone who's been doing muscle testing for 2 years consistently is 65% accurate, and for 5 years is 95% accurate. I've been muscle testing for 12 years, and I still check, double check, and check again myself.
Well, I've noticed that even when I came to you, you do something and then you'd be like, wait, let me just double check that. And
Yep.
you check another way to make sure it's actually true.
Yeah, and I know a lot. I've been studying constantly for almost 17 years in this area. But there's still more that I don't know. And then I'm just like, to honour the person that I'm working with, I'll just recheck, just to make sure. And if I've got a hunch of something, I'll check it. I think this is this. Bang. That's the difference between myself and like your average practitioner. And now I do a brand of that which is very nervous system focused, and it is literally based on the science, neuroscience. It's essentially it's practical neuroscience. There's a lot of neuroscience out there, but it's just like all this word and information. What we do is we make it practical, and that's what I do. And I now teach practitioners all around the world in how to do that. And our system, no matter who learns it, it works because it's a system.
Yeah.
Once you create a system, you just run the system, but it's very different than the norm. But 10 years ago, when I started to get into that neurology side of things, I was like, I could see what was going to happen moving forward. So I was like, okay, I better get ahead of this now. And there's a lot more awareness now, which is great. There's a lot more people seeking answers, which is great. But I don't know how I could work any other way now, knowing what I know, in terms of when I'm working in the clinic and trying to help people, because it gives me the most accurate answers that my conscious mind would try and figure out, but probably couldn't. And I've tested it against. So the more I've leaned into that type of approach, the better the results I've got.
Because you're putting yourself out of the situation.
Exactly.
You're actually relying on data to tell you the answer, not you saying, I think it's this. No, I
Yep.
think it might be this.
Yep.
You're actually asking the body the questions based off, because it's specific.
Yep.
My body's not like yours. Your
Yep.
body's not the next person. So
Exactly.
if you use a generic way to approach me, it's not going to work. Like even when I came to you for, I think it was my shoulder, I couldn't get, when I was doing weights, I was doing a bench press, I felt like one arm was like overpowering. and through whatever, I don't know what you did, you start twisting my arms around this, that.
It might look like that, but yeah.
It felt like
Yeah.
twisting my arms, got X's, whatever it is, the shapes you use. But after that, every time I went to gym, I felt perfect.
Yeah.
But I went to chiropractors, I went to all these different people, but they couldn't correct that because I think some practitioners tend to, like I said, take a specific approach.
Yeah,
they take one approach because that's what they've been taught, that's how they've been trained, and that's how they're going to do it.
And then they can get complacent and lazy. And this is a thing, that, I feel parts of my military experience, and especially hanging around special forces, soldiers and stuff like that, saw how I'd just always be trying to get better. Always trying to get better. So that's how I've lived my ethos. Is like, if I come up against a block, I'm like, well, why does that not work? And instead of going, I'll just do this thing that works, then I'll go, I need to understand that thing over there. And that's what's led me on this path. Because you always come up against things that you can't understand, and that means you need to learn more.
Yeah.
And if you're a practitioner of any, you can be a practitioner in any area of life. For me, a practitioner is like a professional. So like you can be a practitioner of podcasts. No, I'm serious. Like a influencer. Like you're a practitioner. You're developing yourself constantly. Entrepreneurship. You are developing yourself.
That's
constantly.
a big one. Yeah, you constantly have to keep evolving. If you don't evolve in your entrepreneur sort of goal, if you're in that game, you're gonna fall behind if you don't keep ahead of what's going on. Especially now with the AI stuff and all that sort of. AI now is just. It's
crazy.
It's insane now. And it's only new.
There's a reason they call business the infinite game.
Yeah.
Because it's infinite. There's never not something to do, and there's never an area that you can't grow in.
Oh, guaranteed. Guaranteed. There's always going to be something coming out new that's like this. What's happening with AI right now, how crazy it's getting it's scary. Because I watched a video of a person creating a movie complete AI based. There was nothing used except this one app, and it looked like they wrote a script in that, and it came with a full. I think it was like a half an hour movie, just from a script. That AI. I think they used ChatGPT and then this other AI to then create a movie. I'm like, this thing looks insane.
Yeah.
The way it's like they're making commercials out of it and it creates it from scratch.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy to think what's coming.
Yeah.
Because it's called Moore's Law. Have you heard of that?
No.
Is it Moore's Law? It's either Moore's Law or it's something to do with AI technology and just so where we are, the curve of growth. So you've got like, industrial revolution and all this slow growth that's happened since then. But where we are now is we've just turned like this and it's going like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's exponential. It's like, boom. So we're at this point right now in the world. We're literally flying upwards. And this is where it brings back to the work that I do with the inner work and the nervous system work. If again, it's about information coming at us. There's so much information coming at us all the time anyway, if you're just being a human. But with all just the changes, it's like your head's spinning. It can be spinning. If your body and mind and your nervous system is relatively stable, you're able to tolerate it and you're able to sort of accept it. This is happening, cool. Then you can make a choice. Am I going to get ahead of it? Which would be the smart play. Yeah. Don't have to be obsessed with it, but get ahead of it or understand it. You know what I mean? Then you are going to be able to capitalize on it. If you're like, oh, I'm scared, or I'll just look away.
So many people resist it.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's not there.
It's not happening.
It's fucking there, man. Like it's going to dominate everything.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you, like, same with even crypto. Like I've only just got into crypto in the last year and a bit. So much to learn with that, but it's like that's all wrapped in together too. You have to know it. You have to understand it. Everyone has different roles to play.
Yeah.
But if you're in entrepreneurship and business and stuff like that, I think you need to have your head wrapped around this stuff.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Because end of the day, you find out that every week, I feel like there's another software coming now, another version of AI.
Yeah.
Image generators now, prompt generators. There's AI assistants now. There's AI web.
Every software.
Oh, there's almost every single job. Almost every admin job now has been taken over by AI.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't either.
I think they can definitely do certain things better than us. But what that does then is that, because this is controversial, but those sort of data entry sort of jobs, sometimes people might do those jobs. If they really love that job, then that's amazing. But sometimes people do those jobs because they're not actually doing what they really want to do. And so now, if those jobs are taken, it's going to be an opportunity for people to go, well, I can't do that, so maybe I need to do this other thing. And you've got the convergence of AI and crypto and all this tech stuff that we have here, and the creator economy. You can transfer anything. You can now create what you want. We have everything at our fingertips.
Yeah.
This is the good old days, right now.
Yeah, true.
But also you could look at it and go, the world's falling apart. And it is, but also at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity.
I think you feel like the world's falling apart when it grows very rapidly. I feel like there's so many new things going on right now that everyone's so confused. And obviously with the pandemic we've just passed now too, and now AI comes out.
Huge.
I think it's an overstimulation of things going on where people sort of...
It can be, but again, it's all individual. If you are okay in yourself, you're okay with the change. Because the only thing, and this goes back to all the health stuff and everything, the only thing that is constant is change. It's like the only, like death and taxes. Taxes aren't even a thing. But like, if you know what you're talking about, with all the elites, they don't pay tax. But because they know how to protect their investments in trusts. So anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But it's death is definitely, what's death? It's change. Yeah, death is a form of change. You go up, you go down, you feel good, you feel bad. That's normal. The sun goes up, sun goes down. That's normal. Things change. It's meant to change. You can resist all you want. You're not going to be able to... If it's a systemic thing like that, you can't change it until you change yourself.
I feel like people have started to be programmed to believe that change is unhealthy or change isn't good. I think growing up, you felt like the black sheep if you changed. And people would be like, oh, you've changed, and you'd hate hearing that. But now I actually enjoy hearing that.
Yeah.
If someone says
that's
to me,
the point.
It's actually yeah.
You've changed. That's the point.
Thank you. Like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I used to hate hearing it.
Yeah, same.
I used to hate it. That was my word. If someone said to me, "Oh, Peter, you've changed," old Peter would have done it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, if I hear that, I actually get more upset at that because, I get happy with that now because I'm trying to change.
Yeah.
Every single day, I tend to analyze myself and say, could I have done that better?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't approach maybe I shouldn't have been so upset so easily with that situation. How could I have done this better? And I think if you're conscious of what you do, it's a whole nother ball game. It can be toxic too.
Yeah, you don't want to overanalyze
you don't want
yourself.
to.
Because that's another thing too. Then you can get boxed into controlling your change in a way. But yeah, look, it goes back to what we said. Is like if you allow yourself to feel it all, the good, the bad, whatever it is, then, and I learned that again, going back to that experience where I've like allowed myself to feel the sadness, boom, then went to bliss consciousness. I had another experience of that a few years later on a 10-day silent meditation retreat. You probably heard of them.
Yeah, tell me about that because I've always wanted to do one, but
oh, it's awesome.
I heard a few stories how
it's like you're your own psychologist for 10 days, and the non-speaking part is
10 days.
Yeah,
you've done. I heard of a 3-day one that was crazy.
You can do the 3-day one after you've done the 10 days. So it's called Vipassana meditation, and it's from the Buddha teachings. It's not like Buddhist or anything, but like all sorts of people do it. You can't speak for 10 days unless you're to like a supervisor or the meditation teacher. That's easy, but it's the fact. Well, I mean, it's not. It's just that you're in your own self. Like you are in yourself with all your thoughts, and you are meditating 10 hours a day. And
what do you mean you're meditating 10 hours a day?
You're meditating about 10 hours a day, and you don't have a phone. You can't read anything, nothing. So it's just you and your thoughts meditating and eating food twice a day.
That's pretty intense.
It is full on, and it's awesome. It's so bizarre because you go there and if you go there, like I've done 3, but I remember the first one. You rock up and you're having a chat with a few people and everyone's a bit nervous, so you might chat to like 3 or 4 people, and then it starts. So it's just boom, okay. So then you've got a whole 10 days with maybe we had like 150 people or something like that, and it's just no sound. It's like, you know, you eat your food and everyone's just sitting there in this one spot just looking at the trees, and it's just like the only sound you can hear is the birds in nature and
Chewing.
eating the food, yeah. And it's really nice because you're like, there's one part of you that like, this is awesome because you don't have to deal with all the shit that we have to deal with normally, you know, all the expectations and things like that. It's just like, but there's this other part of you that's like, especially if you're in business, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Did I send that email? Or like, fuck, why am I doing this? This is stupid. So there's this massive battle going on within you, but it's in yourself, and that's what the whole thing is. It's why it takes 10 days, because it takes about 10 days to slow down enough to then, again, it goes back to this, are you craving an experience or are you avoiding experience? Are you craving stimulation or are you avoiding being still? And that's what it really comes back to. And again, I had 4 days into that one. Again, I was sitting in this position for 2 hours and I was very like, you know, I'm going to do it right, you know. And I was in so much physical pain, so much pain. Like my knees were like, they felt like they're going to blow up. And I remember I was angry at the pain. And then I remembered what I'd done previously. Like, no, just let go. As soon as I made that conscious, like just this voice, just let go. Let go. And my whole body dissolved into nothingness. I'm in the middle of this meditation room with like 150 other people. I'm like, oh, it's there I am. Oh, you know, like...
Well, you had a bit of an out of body experience.
Like before, that bliss consciousness experience.
Yeah.
I was just dissolved. I was one with everything. I'm like, wow, no pain, no nothing. And then eventually we had to speak, so it's like you had to use your mouth, and I'm like, well, I had to speak. Where's my mouth? I spoke, and then we come back into our body, and then back into pain. And then for 2 days afterwards, I was craving that experience. And because I was craving it, what did I get? A lot of pain. And then 2 days later, I was like, to the meditation teacher, this wise old man. It's like, oh, yeah, I had this really good experience. And I was like, I'm not getting it anymore. And he's like, you're craving. And I was like, he goes, just let go. Just be equanimous. Just focus on the sensation. Don't qualify it. I was like, yeah, you're right. And so for the next 2 days, I was practicing for my mind to be neutral, whether I was experiencing intense physical pain or these lovely sensations of like warmth and love. And by the last 2 days, I was literally like that. I was just, no change between extreme pain and pure love. And the funny thing happened there, and this is like a microcosmic lesson that plays out into life. The more I was neutral and not qualifying good, bad, the more the good sensation came, but I wasn't attached to it. And this is where people get manifestation wrong. Because you can want something more, but you have to let go. You have to let go. And so, yeah, it was interesting. The more I was just able to be neutral, just, okay, yep, going from severe pain to bliss consciousness. By the end of it, I was in that state of bliss just constantly. But I wasn't attached to it.
So when you left and you went back
like
to reality,
buzzing. Yeah.
how long did it take for it to actually wear off?
A week or two.
Yeah.
But
So
you've
for
gotta
a solid 2 weeks, you were just
Yeah, but it was also really hard too because people, like what I'd been through and people haven't been through it, you know. I was living with my parents at the time too, so they didn't understand it. All that sort of stuff. But I remember when I first came out, like, and we were just buzzing. And like people, because you're buzzing energetically, people were like, you know, you're like, everyone's looking at you. And I remember just looking at a book because it's like cleans your brain, you know, because you've just, there's no extra stimuli coming in. You're just dealing with the stimuli that you already have. So when I first came out, I'd look at a book, and you know when you look at a book and you're like, I can't really read that, you know, it just doesn't really go in. I'd look at a book and it was like the words went into my brain. It's crazy. Yeah, so that showed me the power of that experience, and that's why I teach on that a lot now. And even I get people with chronic conditions. I'm like, it actually is that simple. The concept is very simple. The practice is extremely difficult. We've been taught through society and everything else, or everyone around us, that avoiding, like, we should avoid negative things and get positive things, whatever that means. That causes suffering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let go. Allow yourself to feel and experience the richness of life. And guess what? You're going to see things that you previously wouldn't see because you're allowing yourself to see more or feel more.
Well, the only time you actually start to appreciate the good is when you have the bad.
100%.
You can't appreciate the good without the bad.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah, you need both.
Yeah.
You need both. And
we don't appreciate the sun because until we see the dark, the night, you know.
Well, okay, that was a perfect example. Look at our weather we've had recently. I don't know about your side of the...
It's been beautiful, yeah.
Your side of Melbourne. Here has been like cloudy, no sun for probably 2 weeks. Probably, I think today and 2 days ago were the first time in 3 weeks or 2 weeks that we've actually had sun. Where today wasn't good enough to sit in the sun, but there was sunlight. But before that, there was nothing.
I can tell you, down in where I'm at, we've had probably 3 or 4 days of just no clouds.
What's going on there? This side?
Yeah, I don't know.
This side's different. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Because we had no sun. I had one day, like I said, I think it was Tuesday,
Yeah.
where it was about 2, 3 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? I haven't been in the sun in that long.
Wow.
I'm going to go home, sit by the pool, sit in the sun because I hadn't felt the sun in 2 weeks. And that can't be good. That's not good for us either.
So, being in natural light is better than not being in natural light.
Yeah.
Not having nice sun exposure, over time that will affect you. That's why you get the seasonal affective disorder, seasonal affective depression in like the Nordic lands, you know, where it's like dark for 6 months of the year.
Well, sorry, I just forgot my point I was trying to make with that. I think the point I was trying to make is that I appreciate the sun for that day because of all those 2 weeks of pure cold rain and everything. But I don't think I would have appreciated that day unless I'd had those 2 weeks of cold.
Yeah.
And no sun.
100%. No, if I look back on that darkest time of the life that I was talking about, those few years after I left the military, at the time it was horrendous for me to go through. But looking back, that is the best time because it was what shifted me towards this, to where I'm at now. And it's been a journey. But it's the path to self-actualization it's a lonely path.
Oh, big time.
Yeah,
big time. Because there's no one
until
else.
It's not.
Yeah, but then you start to find people who are on the same path as you. Then you start to feel like you're not just the only one. But for the first, I'd say 2 years, you feel like you're an alien within your community because you're doing something completely different to what everyone else has done.
Yeah.
And then until you start to find that crew that actually understands you, then you start to feel like, okay, things start you get deeper into it because when you find people who understand you and you find your little tribe of people, you actually go deeper and you actually get access to more and you start to do it with them and you start to experience different things. But yeah, the first 2 years are definitely lonely. And they're the hardest ones to stick. That's the hardest time for you to stick at it.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're by yourself.
Yeah, you're right, and it's very easy. But once you've got to past a certain point, you can't really go back.
No,
because you know, it's like people say the Matrix and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but it's like, you know, the society in particular, Western society is designed to create conformity, the social norms, the social systems, and so when you go on this other path, you have to break away from that system. You have to break away from the tribe. And so that's distressing for your nervous system because being in the tribe equals safety. And so then you're on your own, you're outside the tribe, you're in the jungle, you know, having to fend with all the tigers and everything else. And then you eventually find other people in the bush and you're like, And eventually you find another village. Yeah,
well, that's... I watched his video a few weeks ago, and this guy, he goes, I can now explain to you why we feel it's so hard to sort of veer off on track. Like the track that you're going on, your family's going on, for you to go off to another path. Because before we developed consciousness, we used to use our, I guess, it was more of an intuition. We used to use instead of our consciousness. So when we used to go from one area to the next to breed or whatever it was just a path. We'd know at this time of the year we'd go to that area and we'd just walk there. and you knew that you just had to go there. But then when we started to develop consciousness, some people start to say, wait a second, what's over there? And then when you veer off, people be like, no, come back.
Yeah.
So in our DNA is programmed to follow the path and just follow where everyone else is going.
It goes back to survival.
Yeah.
Survival. If you stay together, you're safer. And our whole neurology, our biology is programmed that way. So it takes a lot of strength to go against your animalistic nature. Yeah, so that's more from the animal brain, which is like your brainstem.
And it doesn't feel right sometimes. Sometimes you feel like you're on the wrong path because it's different to what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, because it's different, and different equals unsafe.
It's discomfort.
It's
not comfortable.
Unsafe creates discomfort. Oh shit, I shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. I'm a bad person. That's all the stories that the tribe tells you to stay in the cult. Right?
That's a different way to put it.
Yeah. Well, no, don't go. No. Everyone else is like this, and if they don't do this, then they're going to go to X, Y, Z. Yeah. And yeah, if you actually really break it down, it's just different cults, different social norms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a whole other.
You can go so deep into that.
Yeah.
Because that is basically what we do.
Yeah.
We create a cult within our family that this
Yeah.
is what we do. This is our ideas. This is our mentalities. This is our morals. These are our rules. Whatever it is, and you abide by these to be part of this family.
If you're
or part of this tribe.
What footy team do you follow? Do you follow any?
No,
you don't.
no.
That's you're not part of. So you're not following one of the cults in Melbourne. So you've got the Carlton cult, the Collingwood cult. They're all cults. You know what I mean? Different forms.
I could never get into sport to care about it that much.
Give them bread and circus, and they will never revolt.
Yes, okay, yeah. That was from that. Wasn't from ancient Rome or something like
Probably,
that.
I think it comes from Rome, but
yeah.
It's a distraction, and I love sport. I actually follow sport, knowing it's a distraction. I do it consciously because for me, it's a way I can plug out of doing all the things that I normally do. But when you get lost in it, give them entertainment, and look at all the other forms of entertainment we have now, TikTok, things like that. Give them bread and circus. Who's them? It's us. It's the herd. Give them bread and circus, and they'll never pay attention. Yeah, attention is the number one asset. People go, I don't have time. Bullshit. We've all got the same amount of time.
Yeah.
I don't have attention. I don't have focused attention. That's what you should be saying. Why haven't you done this? Oh, I just don't have the time. Well, we've got the same hours in a day.
What do you do with
your
your
attention?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Have you got control of it, or is it being hijacked by TikTok, whatever it is? Anything. Pick your poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm spewing that we got into this towards towards the end because we're at an hour and 11 minutes right now. But
we can do a follow up.
Easy, 100%.
Yeah.
But I would love to start with that topic because that's
It's deep and it's there's so many threads we could go on that, but yeah, I've been down all those rabbit holes, and it's probably way more that I don't even know I'm not aware of yet. But it's almost like we're untangling ourselves from this web of control that we also place on ourselves, and that's to do with our family systems, our society systems, and everything else. And that's what keeps us trapped in living an automated life instead of a autonomous life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's all programming. End of the day, it's family programming. It's
brain gets programmed.
Yeah,
we get programmed by whatever we are exposed to, and so you have to untangle that and replace it with a better program.
Yeah,
and then that becomes the norm. That's why it's hard to change.
You just got to find. I think it's a matter. I heard I can't remember who said it, but they said you can't just get rid of a bad habit and just not replace it with anything.
You have to replace it.
You have to, if you're going to stop watching the news, you have to replace it with maybe a podcast.
Yeah.
But you can't take it away and not do it at all. You have to replace it with something else that's positive.
Yeah.
So it's like me now with music, especially. I'm trying to be more conscious now of the type of music I listen to.
Yeah.
Because
it's frequency.
You look at the amount of time you listen to music within the car, gym, all these sort of things. Now I've swapped music to audiobooks.
Yeah.
So I've gone audible, whatever
Audible,
you say.
Audible, yeah.
And I'll get a book.
Yeah.
And I'll just listen to it. While I'm in gym, I'm listening to a book.
Yeah.
I might take out little bits and pieces to remember it
Yeah.
that I might remember, but it's really just to have some sort of background noise.
Yep.
Because right now I'm listening to 33 Strategies of War. That's an interesting book.
Sun Tzu?
Oh no, who does that one?
Oh, is it not Robert Greene? No.
Maybe it's Robert Greene. I think it's Robert Greene's one.
Yeah. His book Mastery is what took me on the path of mastery.
He's got really good books.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few. He's done a few good ones. The Laws of Power.
Laws of Power is a big one.
That's I think his most popular one. But I think Mastery is his best because like I was obsessed with becoming a master when getting into my like kinesiology career, and I'd been mentored by some masters, and I was just like, I know that if I become a master, I'll win. Like, because if you master anything, you'll win. Doesn't matter what it is. Like master business, whatever it is, creating, you'll win because the cream rises to the top. And so his book was one of the first ones I read. And it was like, there's no shortcuts to mastery. You have to do your 10,000 hours. And he chronicled all these, Leonardo da Vinci, people like that. And there's certain things that you've got to do. Like you've got to find your mentor, and eventually you'll overtake your mentor. And I've done that with multiple mentors. Like I ended up teaching them and over the years. And yeah, it's a really cool book, really well done. And it was just like, I remember reading that, because I was like, how do I speed it up? And he's just like, you can't. You've got to do the reps. And this is where it comes to now. Dopamine circuits are all off whack, and people just expect things to happen like that. Now, you've got to do the reps. I see it with my students a lot. How do I get as good as you or whatever? Do the friggin' reps. Do the reps consistently. You will get there. The only thing that will stop you is if you give up.
Well, the worst thing you can do, a lot of people are impatient.
Yeah.
And the worst thing...
Instant gratification. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Of course it didn't work.
But that's part of our programming too.
Yeah.
I do work, I get paid. You start a business, you do work, you don't get paid.
No.
So that programming of, wait, I should be getting something in return.
You're not getting paid for your time. You're getting paid for the result.
No. And it could take a year.
Outcome.
You could take 6 months to get paid.
Yeah.
So you put in all this work, not knowing that it could even end up paying off.
And it's the 15 years to overnight say, oh, wow, you're doing really amazing. I was like, oh, you really, I have some people say it to me now, like, yeah, I can see, like, it's almost like they're saying, like, it's almost like you just started. It's like, I've been doing this for freaking 15 years. Like, trust me, it's been a long road to get here. Like, you see actors and stuff like that, they all of a sudden, poof, but they've been doing stuff for 15 years beforehand.
And you find out that they've got videos of them at 12 years old acting, and they're 40 years old now, they just made it.
Just made it.
Yeah.
So, one of my other mentors is just, all you got to do to be successful is just not give up. It's just follow through. And so, yeah, I mean, with people I talk to, like some of like students and people I've mentored, I can give them the tools, but sometimes they don't. You can have all the information, but if you're not willing to use the information, you're not going to get the results.
Yeah, no way.
So that goes back to your mindset again, and it goes back to what we were talking about before. It's scary because then I actually have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Most people stay sick because if they're sick, they don't have to. When I say sick, this could be incapacitated, lazy, depressed, whatever it is. They could be physically sick, they could be in pain. They stay there because when they're there, they don't have to take responsibility, someone else does.
Because now they've got an excuse why not to do it.
Exactly. And if they are well, now, to be well, you have to take full responsibility for yourself, full responsibility to be able to be well. Now you can be a contributing member of society, a producer. So you're moving from a consumer to a producer. When you're a producer, you now have to take responsibility for the world around you. So yeah, that's why many people are stuck in their suffering. They're stuck suffering. Pain's normal, suffering is optional.
Well, I heard this quote: "You don't drown from falling in the lake. You drown by staying submerged in it." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was actually in a movie. Yeah. I think it was in Extraction. The young kid.
Yeah.
He goes up to the main actor and he goes, "Yeah, you don't drown from falling in a lake. You drown from staying submerged in it."
Yeah.
And a lot of people just want to play that victim card and just stay in their misery.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
I see it all the time with chronic people. Oh, can you help me? I've been to see all these people. It didn't work. I'm not sure it's going to work. Well, it's not going to work with that attitude. It doesn't matter who. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you've got to allow it to happen. Yeah. Suffering versus pain. Pain's normal. suffering. You can have pain, doesn't mean you have to suffer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People go, oh, yeah. No, they're different things.
Well, it's like, unless you're
Yeah.
it's sort of, might create a few issues, but people say there's depression and there's being depressed. You can have moments of being depressed, but you don't need to lead into, it doesn't need to lead into depression. That's you just deciding to stick to that feeling and just let it keep going. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're not, everyone feels depressed at one point in their life, but it's a choice to let it keep happening. I know sometimes they are definitely...
It's a subconscious choice generally, because, I mean, I think people do generally want the best for themselves, and they do, like, there's a part of them that does, but there's a payoff for them to stay stuck if you really analyse it. And also, sometimes they haven't had enough pain to change. And as one of my mentors says, Paul Check, he's like, sometimes you just need that crisis to be able to change. You need, like, I had to have a crisis. If your dream is big enough, like your dream is to change the world or just create a charity or something like that, whatever it is, your dream's big enough, you don't need to have that crisis. But to have a dream for the world, you already need to be outside yourself. If you're suffering, you're only thinking of yourself. Like I say to people, why didn't you post that content? Oh, because I was worried about what people think of me. So what you're doing in that, I was worried about what people would think of me if I get on camera. So what in that scenario, you're making your feelings more important than the people that you serve. That's why you've got to get over your suffering or move through your suffering, resolve it, because then you're outside of yourself. Now you can stand up, be seen, and then share to the world the solution. You know
100%.
what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good way to wrap this thing up, because we can keep going all night.
I'm just getting started.
100%. But you got your family waiting for you, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap this up then. But honestly, man, thank you so much for making the effort to come
Thanks,
out
mate.
here. I do mean it. It does mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because I know you've come from the other side of other side of Melbourne. But we definitely got to do this again, because towards that end part, I know we could go so much deeper into that, and they'll be good.
There's some rabbit holes there for sure.
100%.
I don't think many people have talked about. I don't even know if you know about it, but there's some areas. It all ties in with what we're talking about. But yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks heaps for having me. That was good. That was easy.
That was good, man.
Yeah.
That was good. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
mate.
it. Thanks, man.
Cheers.